As the House of Commons Select Committee on Health, we are here today to discuss the legal provisions surrounding male and female circumcision. For the purposes of this meeting, female circumcision will include all types of female genital mutilation. In doing so, we will explore the legal issues raised by male and female circumcision, hearing submissions from specialists regarding consent, sexual autonomy and the consequences of criminalisation. Meeting commenced. In order to evaluate the law, the statutory provisions need to be established. Ms Mitchell, I invite you to inform the Board of the Government's current position.
The UK's current stance is that female circumcision is illegal. The statute in place is the Female Genital Mutilation Act 2003, of which Section 1, subsection 1 states that a person is guilty of an offence if he excises, infibulates or otherwise mutilates the whole or part of a girl's labia majora, labia minora or clitoris. The procedures of female circumcision have received widespread international attention, with the United Nations General Assembly recognising female circumcision as a violation of human rights and unanimously voting to intensify efforts to prevent surgery. In contrast, male circumcision is neither permitted nor prohibited by statute, but is generally assumed to be lawful, provided that it's in the child's best interest. Common law authority is relied upon, namely the case of Crown against Brown, where it was deemed lawful under joint parental responsibility. In the 1990s, the Law Commission recognised the need for reform, but this is yet to be achieved. As we're all aware, Western cultures dominate both legal and medical advances, but I'm concerned with the socio-legal issues raised by this, notably that male circumcision is both legal and socially acceptable due to the fact that it's a Western practice. The inconsistency in the treatment of male and female circumcision raises gross issues of discrimination under both Article 14 of the Human Rights Act regarding discrimination on grounds of sex and the Gender Equality Act. Female circumcision encompasses numerous types of surgery, ranging from sunnah to infibulation. The lack of a single recognised procedure for female circumcision, as there is for male, forms part of the contention raised under the Gender Equality Act. The British Medical Authority recently stated that there were no known medical benefits of male circumcision, nor are there for female. In this respect, I would argue that both are performed for either religious or social grounds only, and therefore cannot be distinguished on these grounds. Perhaps most importantly, both surgeries raise issues of age and consent. The reality that males over the age of 18 can consent to circumcision, yet females do not enjoy the equivalent right, further emphasises the discrimination of these procedures.
Thank you. It appears that consent is a large issue within this area, so I'd like to hear any suggestions on this topic. I believe that this is your area of expertise.
Yes, one of the most controversial elements of consent within circumcision is the fact that parents are able to consent on behalf of their male child for circumcision to be performed. This raises a huge degree of issues with regards to the fact that the child who may undergo circumcision is unable to communicate any pain or refusal to the treatment. The problems with this are considered by Fox and Thompson, who raised the issue that the child have no language at all in which to attempt to communicate their experience. We also have studies showing males that undergo foreskin reconstruction and those who suffer huge psychological damages, such as the accounts detailed in Gollaher's study, reciting, "I was sexually dysfunctional and it did cost me personally." These personal costs of male circumcision must not be overlooked, and they raise concerns for me as to whether this requirement that the consent is provided on the child's best interests is really established. It has been mentioned that the reasons for male circumcision these days are considered dubious, which creates concern as to what grounds and reason consent is provided for by the parents. This doubt can be supported by the British Medical Authority, who expressed concerns that the parents providing such consent may not have access to up-to-date information of the risks and consequences of circumcision. And the case of Rejay Minor supports this, where the courts declared that the circumcision of the child should only be carried out where the parents agree or a court, in settling the dispute between them, decides that the operation is in the best interest of the child. This influence of the court could on one hand be seen as another means of protecting the child, but it is of concern to me, and we further distancing the child from its own ability to consent. I appreciate my argument has focused on male circumcision, but there is also the problem that the law has drawn an unnecessary focus on female circumcision. Why are females autonomously able to consent to other non-medical body modification procedures such as breast enhancing procedures?
So I'd like to pick up on the element of autonomy that surrounds male circumcision. For men, circumcision, amongst other reasons, is perceived as a method of perfecting the body. The lack of regulations to normalise the procedure suggests that the regulation and the legal nature of female genital mutilation is preventing it from becoming a social norm. The laws fail to consider the women who autonomously decide to undergo the procedure for cultural, religious, or aesthetic reasons. There are striking similarities between body modification surgeries and female circumcision, and as Palm suggests, it's the irreversible and invasive nature of the procedure which justifies the legislation. However, these features aren't exclusive to female circumcision and are mirrored in both medical and non-medical procedures. Reconceptualising female circumcision would allow for a more accurate and less culturally specific view to be adopted. There are forms of autonomous body modification in every culture. If the high standard and extensive regulation of medical procedures was also applied to female circumcision, the safeguards would create a more hygienic and regulated environment for these women. A government research into cosmetic interventions has showed that high-quality surgical and non-surgical procedures provided by trained staff, and many of the reasons for undergoing these procedures are often mirrored in those of female circumcision. Western justifications cannot be seen to be more or less credible than those emanating from non-Western cultures. The capacity to harm oneself is a component of autonomy, and in the current attempt to protect women, their rights to autonomy are being ignored and dismissed as false consciousness. The government is now under an obligation to recognise different cultural practices and to evolve our legislation to resemble the culturally pluralistic society and the beliefs that originate from outside of Western society.
Okay, so we have considered the position and the reasoning of the UK law. It likes me to consider the consequences if we were to reform the law on the necessary policy issues. So, to the Director of Policy.
Thank you. There are numerous policy issues that I want to discuss with you all today. Firstly, an area for concern is that criminalisation of female circumcision has driven it underground, and we can't neglect issues that we are fully aware of. There are various health complications related to types of cuttings, but they have been left ambiguous due to a reluctance to seek medical advice and attention due to the illegality, for example, in Sudan. Thus, women fear their legal repercussions. Similarly, if a male circumcision was criminalised, we must appreciate the same risk happening, arising of a black market occurring and the occurrence of procedures being driven underground, which then they thus cannot be regulated. While we consider reform, fundamental to this, as is always the case, is resource and cost considerations. Similarly to abortion, would the procedures be performed in specialist clinics, and for reform to be effective, it would need to be done under the NHS, as otherwise cost implications to some families may deter them from using the service and thus does not completely obliterate the black market. Furthering this, would the British public accept the fact that their money from taxes would be used for a cultural tradition that hasn't originated in the UK? If female circumcision was to be reformed, it is vital that further research is carried out to examine the full range of physical, sexual and psychological consequences of the various procedures. And as we are all aware, the post-procedure treatment is just as important as the actual procedure itself. Medicalisation is likely to prohibit infibulation due to its extremity. Therefore, would medicalising it anyway actually obliterate the female circumcision black market? Medicalisation of female genital mutilation is becoming increasingly common across Africa. The Sudanese government encouraged the sunnah circumcisions to take place in clinics, and while many people profess to practice the sunnah circumcision, in reality, infibulation was being conducted in these clinics. So the reform efforts failed to change the amount of cuttings performed, but resulted in a change of the terminology. And therefore, around this area of legal concern, there is a disparity between law on paper and law in practice. Thank you.
Okay, so it's clear that there are large discrepancies between male and female circumcision in the UK law, particularly in Human Rights and the Gender Equality Act. A strong argument is to medicalise the procedure, and this would stop female circumcision continuing in the black market. It seems that there is no risk of opening the floodgates, as women are still having the procedure done, and so medicalising this will not create a surge of women undergoing the procedure. However, my worry with this is that although safeguards would be put in place, it would require continuous monitoring and regulation. It may be that in the UK law needs to impose a blanket ban on all circumcision, as legalising only soft forms of female circumcision could discriminate against a particular culture, yet allowing all forms could be problematic. Therefore, I'm proposing another meeting, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.